So build, let's say, has gone successfully. We are now at systems integration testing and user acceptance testing. One of the things that, especially for companies that have never gone through an implementation, they need to understand what systems integration testing and user acceptance testing means and what really is required of it. In addition to definitions, this needs people involved for prerequisites by creating test scripts. These test scripts are going to be the directions that the users are going to follow in order to perform all this testing. Additional coordination may be required. For instance, if you are implementing an HR system that, those imports may have sensitive information in it that may need to be scrubbed or may need some extra handling. Having a third-party system or attack on application may require additional integrations. To know that in advance will help with the testing during this phase. Comprehensive test scripts that incorporate all the team's processes is important. You want to make sure that you don't leave any process behind that isn't tested. And, have you seen, a general excitement about UAT and SAT since this is the time that the users really get to get in the system for the first time?
Absolutely. I mean, it excites me, but I don't know if everybody feels the same way, but there is definitely an aspect of seeing all the work come to fruition. So it is for SIT, definitely the team has technically unit tested each component. The idea of everything running end to end and then the client team executing that process, we cross our fingers that there are no surprises, but the client team and the consulting team have often done, let's say, loading of actuals for prior periods before. However, there's always something magical, so to speak, about conducting this test, working with the client live to resolve any issues, and seeing the data flow through and tie out. So there's a test of connectivity, and then there's a validation component as well. So there is some business involvement to make sure that the right data is hitting the target application in the right place. So our hierarchies are rolling up correctly, metadata is updating correctly, and data is updating correctly. I will say, though, on the aspect of automation, so EPM Automate is oftentimes a part of our projects. We do encourage customers to get comfortable with the end-to-end process, maybe for the first month or the first couple months before automation is brought into the mix. But there are some very simple automation scripts that also can be part of the end-to-end testing process. So the more thorough you are up front, the better. But it is nice to know that, hey, you don't want to automate a process that isn't fully vetted. So that's one of the things we've learned is it's okay to phase in some of the more complex automation and not get hung up on that. Same thing with UAT. Those scripts and those use cases have been socialized along the way. So we try to avoid any big surprises. But the reason it's called user acceptance testing is to find issues. So I encourage the users to try to break the application with valid use cases, of course, but also, let us know as we go through testing of any additional feedback, and if it can be accommodated, the team will do so. But it's a very critical part of involvement. It's a lot of time. So it needs to be scheduled during a time when the normal business cycle allows for it, or priorities can be shifted. Because sometimes users are surprised at how much time this requires, but it can be 1 to 2 weeks depending on the scale of the project.
Yeah, and there's that time requirement again that you mentioned, that we both mentioned.
Yes, exactly. And to be able to plan for that. So ultimately it's an application that the users feel like they own and adopt.